It saddens me, once again, to hear another mass shooting has occurred in our country.
This is different than any other time we've ever had.
Climate change is a very real and present threat.
And yet you can see Fox News and Breitbart and all of these crazy news outlets spewing out misinformation that half of the country will only believe.
Issues like climate change, gun violence, and inequality are the most pressing matters of our time and threaten the survival of life as we know it.
We've been trying to clear up these problems for countless years, but to no success. So who's going to solve them?
We are! And they are! And they are!
The youth will be the ones to solve the problems of the present day. That's why the 2020 presidential election should focus on America's education system.
For as it is now, the education system is drowning the creativity of kids. The same kids that will use creativity to go on to solve tremendous world matters.
Part of our confusion is that we have never wrestled, and Lily and I have been talking about this today, with the purpose of public education. What's the purpose? If you don't know what success is, you really can't measure success. Well, we haven't had that argument, but I would put forth to you that the purpose of school is to help grow adults.
Standardized testing has taken over schools, becoming their primary focus. Test scores are coming before well-being, the special needs of kids, and important untested skills.
Students used to have long breaks after lunch and a study hall. During this time, they could exercise, socialize, or get homework done.
Free time is incredibly beneficial to our health and education, but nevertheless, the number of free time minutes we get is plummeting.
All right, I think schools have cut a lot of good things out of the curriculum because education is not just about book learning. It's also about using your people skills, your thinking skills. So when we say that schools have cut out the fluff to focus on testing, what they've really done is they're trying to hurt the children and make them little robots, which I don't agree with.
I definitely think that it's valuable for students to learn how to memorize concepts because whenever you enter into college, it's very practical to use. But in the long term, I think that students need to use the material in a more practical way for them to move it to long-term memory opposed to just studying for a test.
This could be due to increased testing. Schools are so overwhelmed that they cut recess and other recreational activities to spend more time on math and reading.
But it's not just recreational activities they're cutting.
In some elementary schools, they cut out history because we weren't tested on it.
That makes you wonder, do schools really care about your learning, or are they just focused on test scores?
Gifted kids are another subject that schools tend to forget about. Schools prioritize the struggling students, which is great, but in reality, the gifted kids are going to be the ones that impact the world.
Instead of teaching every kid the same just for a test, schools should focus on the individual needs of gifted kids. Nurturing the creative needs of these kids will make a tremendous impact.
We live in an exceptional country and we need to preserve our exceptionality. And the way to do that is not with a one-size-fits-all education system.
They try, and they should be trying to make sure that they nurture, but there's always room for improvement.
And if they became more of a priority, do you think they could be better prepared to solve world issues?
I definitely feel like we want to make sure that whatever we can do to impart more wisdom and take care of them and give them whatever information that they need, that would just help to just nourish that brain and so they're even more effective with solving problems in the future.
Another thing that gets pushed to the sides is the arts. While schools offer art electives, it's definitely not a priority. However, students involved with the arts were anywhere from 14 to 20% more efficient in their core classes.
So why don't schools offer more art programs? Because they're so focused on shoving facts at their students to memorize.
I think a lot of times teachers are having to teach what the test details or what's inside of the test, and they're not getting to spend as much time on some things that may be important to know. They're spending more time on passing the test.
Standardized testing is based on memorization. This testing type is ineffective because students forget practically everything they learned after testing has passed. They become more fixated with memorizing than actually learning. Most times, students don't even thoroughly understand the material, they just memorize it. In the real world, employees don't spit out facts from a textbook. They are asked to analyze and think in a creative way to find out what is best for their company.
Memorization does not provide these crucial skills, so it shouldn't be schools' primary concern.
So how does this all relate back to the 2020 presidential campaign?
The presidential candidate needs to address the issue of education because our schools are not nurturing kids' creativity, teaching them the skills they'll need in life, or the skills they could use to be the next Steve Jobs or Thomas Edison.
Schools' obsession with money and pride due to standardized testing isn't helping our society move forward with the innovations that the youth is capable of providing.
We need to trace the problems of today back to the source in order to find the solution. The solution lies in the youth because the youth is our future.